Welcome to part 2 of my list of 20 90s hip-hop albums that I consider underrated. I got some great feedback on part 1 and I'm excited to share with you the second half of this list. If you haven't seen part 1, definitely check it out, but the theme here is that I'm counting down 90s hip-hop albums that I think don't receive enough love. Here's a quick 3-part disclaimer. Number 1, this is just my opinion. Number 2, I'll admit that this list does have a bit of an East Coast bias, but it is definitely not exclusive to East Coast hip-hop only. Number 3, if you're a really deep hip-hop head, you may not see these albums as being so underrated. While some of these records are definitely deeply respected within the hip-hop community, I consider these albums to not achieve the same success and reputation as a lot of their counterparts do. So if you're a hip-hop nerd like me, you may be thinking, what's he talking about? These aren't underrated. In the grand scheme of things, I think they are, and I think that these records should have way more of a legacy than they do. And now that my list is into the top 10, I think a lot of these albums that I'm about to mention are albums that are just as good as some of those real marquee albums from the 90s. So anyway, let's get into it. Here are my top 10. Number 10 is an album that I really love, and one that I do think has started to get some recognition here in recent years, and that's Gravediggaz' debut, 6 Feet Deep. To be honest, this is one of my top 10 favorite hip-hop albums of all time, and this is one that I don't even see on most people's top 50 lists. Gravediggaz were one of hip-hop's earliest supergroups, consisting of the Wu-Tang Clan's The RZA, Stetsasonic and De La Soul's Prince Paul, Stetsasonic's Fruquan, and solo artist Too Poetic. Gravediggaz came together in the early 90s after each one of its members had some sort of issue with Tommy Boy Records and being dropped from the label. For RZA and Too Poetic, they were shut down as solo artists, and for Fruquan and Prince Paul, their group Stetsasonic was dropped from the label after releasing 3 albums. So everyone on here was essentially resurrecting their career, and when the group came together in 1992 or 1993, the concepts for this album began to emerge. By the time the album was released in 1994, RZA had kind of already resurrected his career as part of the Wu-Tang Clan and the meteoric rise of their debut, but RZA and the Gravediggaz still went forward with this side project, which was mostly produced by Prince Paul. It's a dark, vulgar record, but it's also kind of humorous. I mean, look at RZA's fangs on the cover of this thing. Can you really take that too seriously? There are some really cool psychedelic beats on here, including the Hazy Defective Trip and the Wild Diary of a Madman. Blood Brothers and Death Trap tell some disturbing tales, while Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide is an anxious masterpiece. There are guest appearances from a few Wu-Tang affiliates here, including Dreddy Kruger, Scientific Shabazz, and Killah Priest. This album is a crazy vibe, and I've loved it since the first time I heard it. There is some serious star power on here. Now, most hip-hop supergroups have some interesting dynamics as there's a lot of competing egos, but this is never the case from the Gravediggaz on 6 Feet Deep. These guys share the spotlight perfectly, and Prince Paul's creative direction here is seriously impressive. This album isn't as underrated as it once was, but I still can't believe how many people haven't heard this record. At number 9, I have the Shinin by Smif-N-Wessun. While Gravediggaz were from all different parts of New York City, Smif-N-Wessun and the larger boot camp clique that they were a part of were representatives of Brooklyn. So the boot camp clique actually emerged earlier in the 90s with the debut of Black Moon, and the crew as a whole was a major part of the hardcore resurgence of New York City in the mid-90s. Smif-N-Wessun's name was a testament to just how tough the Brooklyn streets were at the time, as they literally named themselves after a gun maker. In fact, the MCs themselves were known as Tech and Steel, and while the glorification of guns is kind of one of the aspects that does characterize this era of hip-hop, it should also be seen as a testament to the surroundings of these rappers and the environments that they were living in. The Shinin was Smif-N-Wessun's debut and has some seriously impressive production. The beats come from in-house production team The Beat Miners, who sampled a lot of Jamaican records and had a lot of low-frequency bass lines, hence their name. All of this gives the music a dark, dusty reggae influence that's relaxed but also hardcore, and brings more of a slower, calculated vibe on songs like Bucktown and Soundboy Burial. Those two songs might sound a little more relaxing, but the lyrics are really nothing to play with. Tech and Steel even intersperse elements of Jamaican patois within their rhymes, which pretty much only address street life, though they do get a little bit conscious on the album's last track, PNC. There's really not a track you can go wrong with here, as Wreck Time, One Time, Shinin', and Let's Get It On are all awesome songs. This is another record that's starting to gain traction and appreciation, and it's truly one of the most unique records from this era. Smif-N-Wessun's name would actually catch up to them in the years following this release, as the gunmaker actually issued a cease and desist. So Smif-N-Wessun did change their name to Cocoa Brovaz for a few years after this album was released. They have, however, embraced the original name more in recent years, and they still continue to operate under it today. Number 8 takes us to Newark, New Jersey for the 1993 debut of the Lords of the Underground, Here Come the Lords. Consisting of rappers Mr. Funky, Do It All, and DJ Lord Jazz, the group came together in the early 90s as the three were attending college together. Within a few years, they set up shop back in Newark, and they released their excellent debut, which is one of the most energetic, catchy, and technically proficient hip-hop albums of the era. It's driven by the lead singles Chief Rocka and the awesome Funky Child. Their high energy, loud voices, and fast rapping took influences from some rappers earlier in the 90s, but they seem to execute it better than most. While most of the lyrical content is braggadocio and street-level tales, they do manage to get conscious on songs like Lord's Prayer and Sleep for Dinner. Psycho is such a fun song, as is The Furious Mad Skills. For me, Lord Jazz Hit Me One Time is low-key the best song on the album. I love that bass line. Low Tug, as they were known, went on to release a few more albums in the 90s, but I don't think anything they've done can match up to the power and energy of Here Come the Lords. What an awesome, energetic record that holds up pretty damn well today. For number 7, we're talking about one of my favorite duos of all time, Gang Starr. They've received a lot of retrospective acclaim over the years, but they've released 2 albums that I think everybody considers classics, 1994's Hard to Earn and 1998's Moment of Truth. But for me, it's Gang Starr's third album, 1992's Daily Operation, that I think is overshadowed by those other records. Daily Operation does receive its flowers, but not quite like the group's later work. Now, it comes down to personal preference, but I do think Daily Operation is their best, and I think Daily Operation does get swept under the rug by these other albums. So by 1992, Guru and Premier already had 2 albums under their belt, 1989's No More Mr. Nice Guy and 1991's Step in the Arena. 1992 was a bit of a strange time for New York City hip-hop, with a lot of action moving to the West Coast, but during this time, Guru and Premier managed to put out an awesome jazz rap record in Daily Operation. Guru is a fantastic lyricist who delivers a nice mixture of storytelling, battle raps, and conscious bars. But in my eyes, it's DJ Premier's creative jazz samples that really carry this thing. The Illest Brother is one of my favorite Gang Starr songs. That keyboard sample, or whatever that is in the chorus, is just insane. Soliloquy of Chaos is a great storytelling cut with a crisp beat from Premier, and both Too Deep and Hardcore Composer feature some great battle raps over some even better samples. The album is perhaps best known for its upbeat single BYS, which is one of the most energetic songs Gang Starr have ever done. Conspiracy features some great conscious bars, and X-Girl to Next Girl features Guru's take on the opposite sex. I could talk about this album forever, that's just how much I love it. I also love Hard to Earn and Moment of Truth, but not quite as much as Daily Operation. All 3 are very nostalgic for me, dating all the way back to middle school, but this record has stuck with me the best out of all of them. Call me crazy for not thinking that Moment of Truth is their best, I just love the jazzy hardcore samples on Daily Operation. For me, it's the perfect Gang Starr record. Number 6 takes us right back to the Boot Camp clique for the first album from the collective. Black Moon was a trio that consisted of Buckshot, 5 Foot Accelerator, and DJ Evil D, and the group released their first album, Enter the Stage, in 1993. While this is one of those records that's really starting to get some props in the last 10 years or so, it needs to be acknowledged as possibly the first record to take part in New York City's mid-90s resurgence. This album actually came out before the debuts of Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, and the Notorious B.I.G., so technically it was the pioneering record from this era of hip-hop that I consider to be one of the best. From a musical standpoint, it's very similar to Smif-N-Wesson's The Shinin', though it was done 2 years earlier, so it's a bit more primitive in spots. It's driven by Buckshot, who delivers most of the lyrics, many of which chronicle the harsh realities of street life mixed with battle raps and some conscious bars as well. Buckshot has an unorthodox lyrical delivery with a stop, start, stop cadence that really didn't sound like anybody at the time. He gets a little abstract in spots, but delivers some hardcore performances on songs like Shit Is Real and Who Got the Props, as well as the harrowingly conscious Slave. Evil D laces every track with these signature beat miners loops with really gritty, dusty drums that were the first example of how the new wave of New York hip-hop was going to sound. The group makes some more upbeat, funky party jam and How Many MCs, but gives us a serious, energetic effort on Who Got the Props, and incorporates some reggae influence on Black Smif-N-Wessun, which features none other than Tech and Steel. In deep hip-hop circles, this one has really started to gain its respect, but it is still overshadowed by Wu-Tang Clan's Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, Nas's Illmatic, and Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. Traditionally, those 3 albums were the ones that signified the start of New York City's Renaissance, but Enter the Stage actually predates all of them. And while all the credit can't just go to one album, Enter the Stage deserves a lot of respect as a pioneer of the style. I feel its historical importance gets swept under the rug, and I don't like that. If you like what you're seeing so far, tell me why in the comments. Also, for a smaller creator like me, new subscribers really do mean a lot and help the channel, so I would love it if you subscribed. Now, on to the top 5. Number 5 sees us return to Memphis, Tennessee for the debut of 8 Ball and MJG, Coming Out Hard. Many would debate that 3 6 Mafia were the kings of Memphis in the 90s, but 8 Ball and MJG actually broke out of Memphis before they did. While DJ Paul, Juicy J, and friends were participating in a very robust underground scene, 8 Ball and MJG were already representing Memphis on a national level by 1993. The duo's later work, especially On Top of the World, is pretty widely celebrated, but for me their debut is just so satisfyingly good. It didn't have the glossy production that later albums did, but that lo-fi appeal actually adds to the album's legacy. The duo did most of the production on their own, and it really does feel like a self-produced effort that didn't have the backing of a major label. This was a common theme in Memphis hip-hop at the time. The lyrics are a bit one-dimensional here, mostly about pimping and street life, but 8 Ball and MJG are both technically proficient rappers. Now, I think the big takeaway from this album is the production. I think it is awesome. The title track, especially the sample in its chorus, is one of my favorite moments in Southern hip-hop. The duo flip Rufus and Shaka Khan Stay, which is just so satisfying to me. The first episode features some great hardcore lyrics and menacing storytelling over an awesome beat, while Armed Robbery tells some daunting street tales. And yes, the lyrics haven't really aged well. There's a lot of misogynistic stuff on here, but that's really a big problem for any of these albums, and it is one of the things that we do have to acknowledge about mid-90s hip-hop. But But in the case of 8-Ball and NY.jpg, to successfully break out of a city with no major label backing and a DIY approach, that's seriously impressive. Memphis has gone on to have one of the most successful hip-hop scenes in the world. Of course, it was only a matter of time before 3 6 Mafia was going to blow up, but who knows how seriously the world would have taken a group out of Memphis if it wasn't for 8-Ball and NY.jpg. I guess we'll really never know for sure, but either way, I have a ton of respect for these guys and their debut record. My number 4 underrated hip-hop album is 456 by Kool G Rap. After some great records in the late 80s and early 90s with DJ Polo, Kool G Rap goes solo and drops one of the most furious albums of the decade. He comes right in the middle of New York City's hip-hop resurgence and captures the essence perfectly, with dizzying hardcore rhymes, incredible beat selection, and strategic guest appearances. I often get asked, who's in your top 5? Who are your favorite rappers? Kool G Rap is one of them, and on this album he really does show why. His rhyme schemes are so intricate and well planned, and his subject matter is relentless. He's an expert storyteller, but on this album he focuses more on battle raps and street life. Take Him to War is an exhibit in violence and features underground sensation MF Grimm. On Blowing Up in the World, he tells a rags to riches story, and does it in an eloquently verbose way over a great beat from DITC's Buck Wild. Fast Life features a young Nas, and the two trade some mafioso-style rhymes over another great Buck Wild beat. Ghetto Knows is one of the most eye-opening songs not just to G-Rap's skill, but also to his street journalism, which is borderline shocking on this song. This was Kool G Rap's first solo album, and while he's had a respectable career, unfortunately he's never been able to capture the essence that was on 456. But for me, this album definitely doesn't receive enough love. This is not a record that's often held up there with some of the greats from this era, but it should be. And Kool G Rap is one of the greats of all time, and it's on this album that he really shows why. At number 3, I have Soul on Ice by Ras Kass. One of the most underappreciated lyricists from the West Coast, Ras Kass puts out his debut in 1996, and it's an underground classic. He's conscious, clever, witty, and hungry, and while he does bring a distinct West Coast vibe in some spots, you kind of forget about where he's from and just listen to what he's got to say. To me, from the moment I first hear those creepy keyboards at the beginning of On Earth As It Is, I know I'm in for a 63-minute onslaught. Ras Kass gets extremely conscious and very political on some tracks. Nature of the Threat is one of the most eye-opening hip-hop songs of all time, as he gives an 8-minute tirade on the history of racism. He brings smooth battle raps on Etc., some West Coast pride on the song Sunset, and he tells a heartbreaking story on The Evil That Men Do. Beats are handled by a number of underground producers, and Ras Kass's beat selection here is top-notch. Ras Kass orchestrates an incredible album here, and while this album has become a cult classic, I still don't think enough people know about this one. For many years, this album was really hard to find, but the internet has closed that gap nicely. And while Ras Kass has had a relatively successful career following this record, I don't think anything he's ever done is matched up to the significance and importance of his debut, Soul on Ice. Number 2 on my list is by a group that I really hope that you've heard of, but if you haven't, I totally understand. And that group is the Juggaknots with their self-titled debut. Consisting of Breezy Bruin, Buddy Slim, and Queen Heroin, this group emerged in the mid-90s underground hip-hop scene in New York. Their debut was released in 1996 on legendary DJ Bobbito Garcia's Fondulum Records. The original album only featured 8 tracks, but it was released in 2003 with an extended track list. Mostly self-produced, the album primarily features lyrics from Breezy Bruin, who I think has a perfect voice and an awesome, unique delivery. He has one of the most advanced vocabularies I've ever heard from any rapper, and you can tell he really puts some thought and technicality into his lyrics. There's a lot of underground, backpacker, battle rap subject material here, but there are 2 conscious tracks on here that shine, and those are Lucifer and Clear Blue Skies. Lucifer tells the story of a street kid who actually gets a nice job in a hospital in a maternity ward, but the things he sees there drive him insane. The piano beat on Lucifer is one of the best I've ever heard, and the song Clear Blue Skies is told from the perspective of a white kid who brings home an African-American girlfriend to his racist father. The song itself features the conversation between the father and the son, with Breezy Bruin playing both parts. And while the whole album is enjoyable, Trouble Man, Jive Talk, and Epiphany are other great songs. If you know Juggaknots and you know this album, then I commend you. You really know your shit. If you don't, when you finish watching this video, go look up the songs Clear Blue Skies and Lucifer. I promise you won't be disappointed. We've come a long way, but it's now time to talk about the album that I feel the strongest about. A lot of you real heads are going to know this one. It's the 1997 debut of Capone-N-Noreaga, The War Report, which I think is one of the most underrated hip-hop albums ever. I just can't believe that this thing isn't held in the same vein as Mobb Deep's Hell on Earth or It Was Written by Nas, and it's frustrating that it hasn't received the same reputation that those two records have. It's an absolute Queens classic, and if you know me, Queens hip-hop is my specialty. I guess if there's one criticism I have about this album, it's that Noreaga's rhymes are a little bit weird, but I don't know, he's just a smaller piece of a bigger puzzle. Capone is a legendary rapper from Queensbridge, as is Tragedy Gaddafi, who stars as a guest on about half of the tracks off this album. Originally slated to come out in 1996 and driven by the lead single LA LA, which was part of the East Coast West Coast War and was a response to Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound's track New York, New York, this album had some major issues prior to its release and was pushed back to the summer of 1997. By the summer of 97, hardcore New York hip-hop was quickly disappearing in favor of more flashy and materialistic music. Because of the delay, this actually came out during a time where New York hip-hop was transitioning positioning, and it has some of the most unforgiving and hardcore beats that you'll ever hear on a New York City hip-hop album. The two Noreaga solo tracks on this album, Bloody Money and Halfway Thugs, feature the album's best production, and the beats are done by Easy, LP, and Charlemagne respectively. The album is probably best known for the song LA LA as well as the song TONY, which is a majestic street jam that features a great, legendary guest verse from Tragedy Khadafi. The gritty driver's seat features some of Noreaga's crew as well as an appearance from Busta Rhymes, while Live On Live Long achieves some local airplay in New York. The album ranges from calm and introspective on songs like Channel 10 and Closer to maniacally hardcore vibes on songs like Illegal Life, Never Die Alone, and Iraq See the World. And while there are a couple cheesy moments here and there, these moments are worth enduring for the overall legacy of this record. Possibly the last glimpse of hardcore New York hip-hop. The War Report should be more of an institution, but I think it's overlooked. I've had many friends over the years that have listened to hip-hop and some that have gotten really deep into it, and only one or two that I've ever known really were familiar with this record. I've had this album since a couple years after it came out, so this is dating way back into my childhood. So I've been sitting on this thing for damn near a quarter of a century. I know there's going to be people out there who are going to tell me that this is not underrated, but in the grand scheme of things, it really is. This record should be right up there with albums like Reasonable Doubt and Hell on Earth as one of the latest examples of hardcore New York hip-hop. The grit of the War Report is unmatched, its vibe is so unique, and the secret weapon of Tragedy Khadafi really throws this thing over the top for me. But remember, this is my opinion and my opinion only. As I told you in part 1, I'm just calling it like I see it after 25 years of studying hip-hop. And sure, a lot of these albums aren't quite as obscure as they used to be because of the internet, but they are definitely either underappreciated in general or overshadowed by other albums from these artists. But hey, man, this was really fun for me, and 90s hip-hop is my wheelhouse, and I love talking about it. I'm glad that you stuck around to hear my thoughts and you're still here. For that, I'm grateful for you. If you enjoyed this video, a like, comment, and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in.